Good morning. It is Wednesday, February 19th. I'm struggling this morning. I have to go out and clear the snow off of my vehicle. I'm dreading it. Couldn't go into my gig yesterday because of all the ice. Now this morning we have snow. And I am struggling to try to make content because I am working towards rebuilding my classes. I have a variety of topics that I want to discuss. You work with what you have, and you pray that somewhere along the line, everything kind of falls into place. I think I've attempted this video maybe 5 times, and I've been following somebody else on YouTube who always says, doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to get done. In order for people to know who you are and what you do, you must be able to speak about who you are, what your brand is, and why you are doing the things that you do. And there's not enough coffee right now in the world because I am struggling for content, struggling for words, struggling to get out of my house, struggling to purchase a new vehicle, struggling to get up the street to even go into my outside gig. We can't be any more authentic or raw than what we see. We are not the pretty people all the time, and don't let the internet fool you. Those who have a perfect life that they show online, they're so happy, everything is so wonderful. That's the beauty about the internet. It makes you believe a lot of things that aren't true. But this morning I am struggling, and I'm going to kind of talk you through it because we all get in these little funks. You know, when you have a plan, whether it be plan A, plan B, plan C, sometimes it just doesn't work. And you kind of muddle through till you can come out on the other side, you know. I'm Kitryn Marie. I reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist, writer, speaker, life and a business coach, teach a variety of art enrichment classes, teach how to put a vision board together based in life coaching and psychology, teach group painting classes, teach creative-minded women how to start their side hustles because we are all still struggling in this economy. And like I said earlier, in a video, with all this money that Doge is finding, I pray to the high heavens, our Lord Jesus Savior, the universe, that they cut us a very good stimulus check because we, the American working people, so rightly deserve. And I don't use that word very often, but since 2011, it has been a struggle for a lot of different people, for a lot of different reasons. People, you know, who had businesses, lost businesses. People who had long-time jobs, lost their jobs. You know, you take in factors of death and loss, you know, aging, you know, the struggles we come with aging, and then many having aging parents that they are having to juggle between taking care of themselves, their family, and their parents that, you know, are on death's doorstep, sadly. It's part of that cycle. You know, but where are you at in your life? What are you dealing with? How's your health? What is your money story? That's where I was going with all of this. Because when I'm teaching my vision board class, we get to a point where people talk about their careers and their finances and the money they have and how they feel they always have lack. And I always say, your money story has a lot to do with your parental units and how they felt about money and the struggle that they had to go through, because probably if you're a boomer or a Gen Xer, you know, it was only in the 70s when your mother went back to work. She probably stayed at home. Your father was the breadwinner, and he moaned and groaned and bitched about every dollar that had to go out to a household to a child if you sent your children to a private school. I believe at that time they could write the Catholic schools off or any private schools, and then when state and church decided it needed to be separate, that was when we got pulled out of a Catholic school. It no longer was feasible for our grandparents, who raised me and my sister, to pay for that education. My grandpa was a shoe cobbler. He provided not only for me and my sister, my grandma, but my Aunt Phyllis and her daughter. We lived in a two-family flat at some point in life, and an aunt and uncle lived upstairs, and my two cousins, and they split a $230 mortgage that they struggled with making. And I just find that by today's standards, $230 is nothing. To have a car payment from what I have been told is about $450 a month, which I think is absolutely insane. But what is the money story that you have from your family upbringing? I'm going to try to get comfortable, and I'm all mismatched this morning. I'm going for comfort, and I'm going for, just trying to stay warm. But what's your money story? My grandpa, he ran a shoe business, took care of family. He even helped out, I believe, his sister and his brother and their family. But my grandpa was really good with money. I never heard my grandpa too much complain about doling money out. He just was really, really good with it. And we never went without. Or if we did, we didn't even know. My grandma cooked. Her and Grandpa would take turns going to the grocery store. Grandpa would go down to our Soulard market. He'd buy fresh ingredients, and they cooked. That's what they did. We didn't go to dinner. Special occasions for our birthdays, I always asked for a chocolate cake and pizza. My sister's birthday is November 2nd, so we always celebrated her birthday on Halloween. We never knew that they struggled until it was after my grandpa's death, when I was going into high school, that I really saw the financial strains that my grandma had. Now, my dad, on the other hand, who was a functioning alcoholic, loved his money. He was a workaholic when there was work. When he was in the height of being a functioning alcoholic, he hung on to every penny he ever had. It was very mentally, emotionally detrimental to him after my mother died. And although his alcoholism pretty much played a very big part in her life ending, it wasn't the result of her life ending, but it played a very big factor in it. And when my grandma and grandpa took my sister and I in and raised us, they did it on my grandpa's salary, and it wasn't too often that my dad would contribute. And if he did, they would send me in to ask him for money. So my money story is very much attached to that anxiety. I'm not a shopper, but the flip side of that, of course, Amazon has made everything easy for everybody. But I love to thrift, and I love to create things. I love to make things. I like being able to see something, and I go, I can make that. I can do that. It's about ingenuity in my book, where I come from, You don't have to have the best of everything. And sadly, when you have that mindset of you don't have to have the best of everything, you learn to accept bare minimum. But like I said, I'm not a shopper. And right now I'm looking for a vehicle, and it's absolutely killing me with the terms and the conditions that these car dealerships and these loan companies, are requiring. And I have a job. I have 2 jobs, on top of the fact that I'm trying to rebuild this business. But when I have money, I'm really good with it. And when I don't have money, I make it stretch till you can't believe. And I find it so funny. Ironically, I was scrolling through TikTok, and the show Anna Faris and Allison McKenzie, I think is her name, and they're about recovering addicts, mother and daughter. And I find that show to be rather entertaining, although I don't watch TV, but I'll catch snippets of it. And Anna Faris is studying to be a lawyer or a lawyer's assistant. And she's living with her friend who is wealthy, more money than the woman knows what to do with. And the woman, and I don't know her character's name, but she's laying by her pool. And she says to Anna Faris, who is studying, she says, rent is due, and I need you to give me your $75, your part that we agreed on. And Anna Faris says, I'm studying right now. I've got a class tonight. I'm doing a double tomorrow. I'll get it to you tomorrow. This month has been really struggling. I've been really struggling. That's what she says. So the next day comes, and the character who has the big wealthy house, laying out by the pool again, and she says, do you have my money? You owe it to me. Do you have my money? You owe it to me. And Anna Faris says, yeah, I have it. I had to work a little extra over, but here you go. Hands her the $75. And the gal's laying by the pool. She has no pockets. And her maid is behind there cleaning and bringing her a drink and a tray of food and whatever. And she says, oh, I don't have any pockets here, so-and-so. Take this money. Go get yourself, go get your nails done. And Anna Faris stands there and she says, you asked for that money, and now you're turning around and you're giving it to your housekeeper. And the character says, but you owed it to me. You owed it to me. And Anna Faris says, but you didn't need it. You had it. You see, I am struggling. And the character says, it doesn't matter. You owed it to me. Now, where am I going with all of that? That hit home so much to me personally, because people always want to have a term and a condition when it comes to helping someone out. It takes a lot for me to have to ask somebody for help. That is one of the things, and to digress a little bit, my name is Kit, K-I-T. And my dad had always said growing up, if I needed help, I would have to do it myself, Kit. Now, there's humor in that little, playing on words, but I've lived by that. And anybody who goes through life, when they have this relationship with money in general, they know the pride that comes with working hard for your money. You also become very observant to the ones that have money who refuse to let go of it because their life is empty. Then you have the other ones who, they know the value of $1, but they are so generous by nature that they can't help but to give. And they don't hold that over anybody's head other than the mental account that they take within themselves, because I'm sure there are very many people who have helped who have not said anything, but they think in the back of their mind, that person would not have that if I did not do that for them. And I question that as a life coach, because those that are helping, that want to hold something over somebody's head, I always wondered, are they doing it out of generosity, or are they doing it so they can fill an ego part of their life because their life is so empty? They're hanging on to something and having to let go of it. They want to be rewarded for helping somebody out. Again, like I said, I have struggled tremendously through life, and I have had several people through life help me in ways that I can't even explain. But a lot of those people have held those things over my head, and they've used it as weapons, and they have come against me. And here's the thing about reciprocity, give and take. When you were doing something out of generosity and you were helping somebody, There isn't a term and a condition on it. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart. I always say, I would love to be a philanthropist. I would love to be able to have money, and if I saw somebody struggling, it would make me feel so good, regardless of what is going on in my situation, just to be able to say, here, take it. You need it? Take it. My ego is in a completely different place when it comes to money. I talk about that in my business coaching and my life coaching class in the money section, because money plays such an important role emotionally and mentally in our lives because of how we grew up with it. If I had to go and ask my dad for anything, it was like, pulling teeth. I can remember when I was married, and I've only been married one time and was married for 11 years. And my ex-husband, he couldn't hold a job or didn't want to work, regardless of whatever his situation was. Him being a product of his environment. And I won't say anything bad about him because we have great kids. My older two kids are wonderful. Even my youngest, who's from another, is wonderful. My kids very much know the responsibility that comes with money, and I'd like to think that comes from me. But there was a point when I was married and he was not working, and I had two small kids and we had no groceries. And I can remember calling my dad saying, hey, we are really struggling here. Can you, get us some groceries? My dad threw the biggest fit ever. You have a husband. That is his responsibility. He is the man of the house. He is the man of your family. He is supposed to be the provider. It took a lot for me to have to digest all of that, because here I was in such need, and it wasn't so much me, but my two smaller kids. I didn't even take into factor that, the man that I was married to wasn't working. It was about what I needed for my kids. My dad brought over the groceries later on, and he literally threw them on the kitchen table. Threw them on the kitchen table. He said, don't you ever ask me for groceries again. That is a hard pill to swallow when you are a young mother and you are dealing already with emotional and mental money issues, and the people that you think you can go to for help, and then they turn it around and they use it against you, or they hold it over your head. Like I say, when I have money, I am really good with it, and when I don't have it, I try to make everything work. And I think people take their money stories, they carry it with them, and whether they know it or not, their everyday life, they're dealing with money in some way, some form. Now, in my outside gig, I work in the restaurant industry since 2011, and I started in the industry in 1994. And I tell this story all the time. I was working 4 days a week, making $900 a week. 1994, 1995, and after that it started dwindling down. They were taking taxes out on our tips, and I changed locations, and that had a lot to do with it. But fast forward to today, in my outside gig, I'm either bartending or I waitress or I do banquets or events. The tipping industry has completely changed because people have struggled since 2011. And when I lost my big job in 2011, even at that time, I was making about $600 a week and making life work. And then fast forward up until the restaurant that I was working at closed their doors last February, I was working 3 days a week, making $600. Here I'm working 2 jobs. I'm working 5 shifts at one and 1 or 2 at the other. And it is nowhere near what it used to be because of the way that the economy is. Now, every bit that comes in, I save my change. I have automatic deposit, and I pay my bills the best that I know how. But that money story plays in the back of my head, because people do not understand when they have it and somebody else is struggling. They automatically have the sense of entitlement, or they have the sense of egotistical pride. Well, I work and I'm getting this type of income. Why are you not doing the same? And that is projecting. That is projecting onto somebody else their money story, which is usually so far from the other person's, because the situation is different. Or, let's reverse a role here. Let's talk about the child that never went without. Let's just hypothetically, an only child who had a working father, a mother that stayed home, and the mother did nothing but dote on that child. And every time the father came home, regardless of the situation, that child never went without. Never. As that child grew up, every person that came into his life or her life, and I've known very many only children, and it is the same when you have parents who are doting and constantly giving. As adults, they never live up to that expectation or standard, because they can't meet the same standard because of the way the economy was at the time when they were young. But they are still expecting those people to give to them, regardless. We see men who get involved with women who are expecting the women to give them everything because their mother gave them everything. We see daughters who their dads went completely out of their way to give them whatever they needed or whatever they wanted. So they get involved with somebody and they expect that same type of giving to them. Then you have the kids that went without. And you have, the families that had the multiple children, and the dad still came home, bitched and moaned and groaned, but there was always one child that always seemed to get more than everybody else. Those are money stories that play in all of our lives. I started babysitting, I think at the age of 14. By the time I was in high school, all of my girlfriends had gotten jobs downtown. No, I wouldn't go downtown now today if somebody paid me $1 million. But we were all working at a clothing store. And I was working, making an income. And my cousin, who lived upstairs, she would come down, she'd steal my shoes, she'd steal my clothes, she'd steal my makeup. And I would get so angry because I worked really hard to have those things. And here's the other thing, too. When you are working hard and you have your money and you have decent things, it's not that you're being selfish. You're protecting what you have worked for. And for someone to steal that from you, first of all, it's disrespectful. Second of all, it's not funny. And what made it, insult to injury, my aunt thought it was comical. So as we get older, we have these stories with us. I was lucky to be a stay-at-home mom. I did arts, I did crafts, I sold Avon for the longest time, kept my older kids in pizzas on Friday night and tennis shoes, kept us in, bath and body products, makeup. What else? I cleaned houses to keep my oldest in school. I cleaned the rectory at our church that we had belonged to. Where else? Along the line, by the time my daughter came along, I went to go work for a wallpaper store and ended up being their assistant manager in their home decorating department because I could use my art along with that. Always have had my hand in food and beverage, always, because those tips I have learned to rely on. Although I have a small income that comes in, I still have my tips. That is how I have balanced life. Now, as I studied life coaching and business coaching, putting together this business since 2010, I think I started on this, teaching art classes and still doing the arts and crafts. You take your hobbies and your gifts and your talents and you learn what you're good at and you work with what you have in order to make life work for you. And building a business, you're not going to be an overnight success. But what your money story is very much plays a factor, especially when you have learned to be stubborn, resilient, you have a vision, you have a dream, and you don't necessarily rely on the money to be the factor, because you know at any point in time, God can flip that script. He can open that door, and all of those dreams and goals and ideas and what your money story happens to be for your own life ends up making you more money than you could have ever imagined. So if people are struggling right now and you can't quite understand why they're not on the same page as you, or why they're not able to do just like you, understand what your money story is. Understand what your work ethic is. Understand, do you have children? Who's relying on you? What are your outside responsibilities other than for yourself? You know, were you the only child? Were you doted on? Were you the one that constantly was seeking attention and you needed validation, and by having that validation you needed somebody to monetarily pay for you? You know, were you one of those children that you absolutely just went without and you learned to agree to just deal with the bare minimum? You know, what is your money story in regards to how you keep your house? Are you a minimalist? Are you a maximalist? You know, do you thrift? Do you have to have the best, the latest, and the greatest? Having that money story very much plays huge factors in your life. And I do talk about that in my life coaching class. Vision board, creating, understanding character, behavior, and awareness, understanding you're a product of your environment, you know, helping you see what your mental clarity is when it comes to the way that you live life and the way you do your job, the way you approach people. Reciprocity. You know, what are you doing for somebody that you're expecting that same thing back? And then if you're doing something for somebody, what are you holding over their head because you are trying to project a life that works for you but not works for somebody else? But again, I'm Kitryn Marie. I reside in St. Louis, Missouri, an artist, a writer, a speaker, a life and a business coach, teach a variety of art classes. The Vision Board class is $65. I can do it in a group. I can do it private. If you are a creative-minded woman, and you have an idea, and you need somebody to help you implement the idea, creating a marketing strategy, learning how to go live, learning how to talk, just like you have a friend right in front of you, you know, that's $95 a class. That is a private class. Reach out, Kitryn_Marie at yahoo.com for today. For tomorrow, be happy, be blessed, be thankful for everything. Fate turns on a dime. You decide what side of the coin you want to be on. Don't let your money story keep you and hold you back from having the life that you desire. Not everybody is you. Not everybody understands your work ethic. Not everybody understands the dream and the vision and the goal. You do the best you have with what you have to work with, and nobody can ever take that away from you. You stay warm, and I hope to see you real soon. Take care.